Nick is a specialist on lead generation. He's got a background in marketing. And in the discussions that we've been having, we both share the same thoughts that if it's the audience you want to get into, and that could be on via Google, it could be via your website, it could be via networking events, saying that, getting in front of those people and saying the right thing can be the difference between people leaning in and say, tell me more, or backing off and say, hey, you're trying to sell me something. So I'm now going to introduce Nick.
So guys, I just want to share the whole thing around messaging, which I think is kind of my high horse. And I think there's probably more than one or two on here that have heard my rants before. And I think what I'm trying to do here is that I'd like you to kind of take a step back, have a look in the mirror and look at what you're doing and look at how some of your messaging, and Paul uses that expression to lean in. And I like that. Works well for me because you do want people to lean into your business. And it comes from a place, it comes from an old marketing acronym that I've been using in my world for a very long time. And it is that whatever you're doing, whatever comms you're doing, and any of those communication channels, and it is any of those, from social media to how you are here this morning, you're trying to get people to buy from you. And there's an old marketing acronym, and it's about attracting attention, creating interest and desire, and then asking people what to do, what would you like them to do next. And there's kind of a saying in marketing about what's your call to action. But in reality, if people like what you're offering and like the product that you might have for sale or the service you might be offering, you don't need a call to action because they're going to come to you anyway. And I think one of my favorite marketing channels, which are posters, and here's an example of a poster. There's a number of us who are wearing specs here, and think about this in terms of your own business and think how simple this is. Attract somebody's attention, create the desire and interest, 2 for 1 for 69 quid. And then what do I do next? Well, I go to Specsavers. Now, this poster is about 8 years old, yet it's true today for anything we do. And as you'll see, I'll come on to this, it all is around a very fundamental question. And that question is, what do you need to, and you can ask yourself this question, what do you need to put in front of a potential customer? And I'm including us in this group because it happens at this point, as well as any social media, as well as paid ads on Google, as you and Kelly will say, wherever you go, what do you need to put in front of somebody so they react by saying, yeah, I want one of those, or I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Now, one of the experts, perhaps the biggest, I think the best successes are the supermarkets, the way they promote themselves. Now, yeah, it's a B2C and they're big companies and they've got big advertising budgets, but it's also very, very simple. And an Aldi ad doesn't say how passionate they are, doesn't say how many times they've been in, how long they've been in business, doesn't say how big their stores are. It just gives you a simple proposition. It's clearly a food shopping basket, and it's this basket's cheaper than that basket. And it is that simple. And while this is a national advertiser, it applies to us in exactly the same way. So I'm going to give you an example here. Now, we all turn up at these networking meetings. I'm running the network meeting on Friday, did it last Friday. We're all in this place all the time. What we tend to do is we come along to these meetings and we say, this is what I do. Now, let's just think for a minute that I'm a plumber. Now, I've got a fantastic shower room that we did when we did a conversion a couple of years ago. And I just love it. It's a beautiful space. Now, if you're a plumber, you can turn up at this, and there's nothing against plumbers, by the way, but you can turn up at a meeting like this and you can say, I'm a plumber and here's my blowtorch and here are my tools. But actually, what people want, they want that beautiful shower room. And in so many ways, if the plumber shows you his shower room, you're buying the output. You're buying what he does. Of course, he's got a blowtorch. And of course, he's got kind of overalls and copper and flux and all those things. You kind of expect him to have that, otherwise he wouldn't be a plumber. And so I'm kind of saying to you guys, when Paul goes around the room and the next time this happens and somebody asks you what you do, which is the kind of networking question, and we're a bit defined by that, which is a shame really, because we're actually all kind of human beings. Think about what you do is you provide a service, and for many people looking around this room, it isn't what you do, it's the outcome, it's the experience. So when you're in these places, whatever you're selling, now selling's a bit of a, I don't like the word selling, but let's face it, we're about selling, we're about creating revenue for ourselves. So saying what you do is never enough. We're a firm of accountants, we're an IT support provider, now an MSP. IT people love using three-letter acronyms. An MSP is a managed service provider. We're Microsoft Gold partners, we're bookkeepers. And then saying that you care for your customers, well, bloody hell, don't we all care for our customers? Aren't we all passionate in what we do? Now, I did some email marketing, which I do to attract business to my own company, my marketing business. And I had a company look at me, or they looked at one of my blogs, and I could tell that. And I thought, I'm just going to have a little look at their website. This is a classic case. So here is a firm of accountants, and Churchill Knight is proudly accredited by the FCSA. Now, there will be some people here who know what that means. The rest of us, I mean, we just don't care, because and what do? We just move on because it's of no interest to us. And the other thing that kind of always amuses me, this company here, because I looked at why work with us? Well, you know what? They provide excellent customer service and they deal with my questions honestly. It's like, no shit, you really do this stuff, do you? So, and this applies to all of us. So I'm asking you guys to think about your online, which is where so many people see us now, even your business card, when one day we go back to having those meetings that are a bit more personal when we meet each other face to face. It's not what you do. It's why I want to use your company, not the guys down the road. And I've also just put a little bit in here. I'm going to do a blog on this because it's also not Simon Sinek's why. Now, anybody that knows Simon Sinek, and he is a fabulous guy, he does this brilliant talk about why, and it's worth watching it because a lot of people, I think it's a distraction because I think a lot of people try to articulate their why. They do find it quite difficult because it's another conversation. So whatever you are doing, your intro or elevator pitch, don't like elevator pitch, or your website, you need to share your knowledge, be the expert that you are, and you do need to be memorable. And then you need to let your potential customers come to their own conclusions. They're much happier coming to their own conclusions. And this is all about how you articulate what you do, your value add, and the way you communicate. And it is in this room, it's also on your website. So I'm going to ask you another question now. I'm going to ask you what your website is for. Now, people don't just arrive at your website. Oh, I'm at somebody's website. Oh, I'm at Rod's website. I've either looked for it, or I've heard about Rod, or I've seen his stars on Google, 50, however many he's got. That's amazing. But people arrive at anybody's website. The people I can see at the top, Sarah, me, Paul, Mickey, Mark, John. We arrive at your websites because we've searched for a service that we're interested in. We've any number of reasons, but we don't just arrive by mistake. So I kind of know what you do anyway, because I've searched for you or found you. And so the question that I've got is, what is your website for? It's only for one thing, really. It's just for reassurance, so that I feel I've come to the right place. Now, I'm just going to show you here, and I'm going to get the messaging things here. I'm coming to that in much more detail, but I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about where reassurance falls away and where the whole website thing falls away when we start to use that dreaded we word, we this, we that, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't know, ProTasker, it's been on my presentation for a bit now. At ProTasker, we strive for excellence. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. It's just bullshit. It is just pointless drivel on websites. And however hard I dig into this site, at ProTasker, the sky is our limit. Climb as high as you dream. And the point here is I've got no idea I will never get to these pages because nobody else will, because it just is nonsense. my high horse here is that it's never about you, it's about your customers. Now, I'm going to show you some examples here of conversations I've had with people that I've worked with, where I've just thought, look, there's a better way of doing this homepage. And the homepage is so important in your website, or the landing page, wherever somebody. Now, if you work with the PPC people, we can land you on any page of the website. But the vast majority of us start our experience of somebody's website on the homepage. And I bumped into a lady who turned up at my networking meeting who is a voiceover artist, and this is the homepage of her website. And a lady called Claire Dewsbury, and she's just got this amazing voice. And I thought, Claire, this website's really not working for you. As in, I land here, and it's like there's an old microphone, and it doesn't really, I don't know who you are. So now I'm not the designer here, but what I did was I just had a little fiddle around in Photoshop and thought, there's a better way of doing this, Claire. And I did this for her here. I'm sorry, I'm sitting over her head. A terrible photo of her, but I just pinched it off one of her social media things. So these are really strong words here, and I've got direct access to these examples, and it's got a really punchy headline. And I really like that, and she really liked it. Now, and it also talks to the audience. It talks to the people that are going to have a look at her. And for me, and she says she's going to do this, whether she does or not, I don't know, and that's up to her. But I just love the words here. Now, I also chatted, I want to show you another example, and this is very kind of Rebecca to help me here. I was really impressed with Rebecca's story, as in from an architectural photography point of view. And I also particularly liked her kind of holistic view about how, it's real, it'd be nice if I could see her, but I can't because she's stuck down in here somewhere, but I can't see, can I see her? Yes, I can. I really loved her story. And this is her website. This is one of the home pages of her website. There's a scroller on here, which I don't like much. And I was thinking, what would I put on this website if I wanted to talk to architects and people in construction? How would I change that message? Because my feeling at the moment is this isn't memorable, and it's not really talking to the architect. It's not saying, and I'll just show you, that's probably the easiest thing, isn't it? So I just had a little fiddle here, and thank you very much, Rebecca, for letting me do this. And I just put these words here. And this is a beautiful black and white photo. It talks architecture and construction to me. And it's asking the architect to look at this and thinking, because the architect wants to look amazing. And generally architects, they're very creative people, and they have generally got pretty good photography on their sites. And if this message is very simple, it's talking directly to the architect. And I kind of think about, when I'm thinking about headlines and words and messaging, I sort of think, what would they like to hear? And in my world around email marketing and marketing, used to be at those exhibitions where people would, have a big kind of banner stand type thing, and it would say on it, it didn't say we do email marketing, it said more opportunities, more sales, more profit. And then it had a logo at the bottom. You may remember those, Rod. We used to kind of bump into each other in those spaces in our last lives when we had hair. Well, we didn't have grey hair anyway. And people used to come up to my stand and they used to kind of look at it and they used to go, so what do you do? Now, the death question is to say we do email marketing, because then they can say, yeah, we use MailChimp or we do this. So I used to say to them, turn it around, have a conversation with them about their business. Can I just ask you a little question about your business? They'd tell me about their business, whatever it was. And I would then say, how would it be if I gave you a sheet, a CSV file, an Excel file, and on it, that sheet had 50 people who've read your website, read a blog on your website, and they're potentially interested in doing business with you. And everybody would go, my God, yes, that's what I want. So email marketing was the tool. What they want is a list of potential contacts. So I've got one more of these to show you. And this is a guy that I've met again in networking. He's an old school graphic designer. I mean, he's a really nice chap, a guy called Mike Land. And this is his homepage of his website. Now, he wants to work with bigger brands. He wants to be employed by a marketing agency, advertising agency who may have run out of creative ideas, maybe a marketing company or an ad agency who have somebody who is on maternity leave or away from the business. So he's a grown-up. I mean, I call him a grown-up because there feels like there's an awful lot of graphic designers, but he really knows his stuff, really impressed with him. And I just wondered, what would the creative director or the managing director of a company wanting to employ a freelance graphic designer, what would they want to read? And I'm just going to move myself down there. And I did this for him here. And for me, this talks directly to the person that I'm trying to engage and to sell to. And so there are 3 examples how the messages are so important in that fleeting, it is a fleeting medium. So just like the poster site in marketing speak, it's a fleeting medium. It's got to work really fast, not in 10 seconds. You never got that long. It's got to work pretty instantly. And I think the 3 examples pretty much do that. And why that's so important, I'm just going to show you this Google Analytics a little bit here. So this is from somebody that I did some work with. And for those of you that don't know much about Google Analytics, for those, some of you do, this is a company that from over a month in 2019 had 9,690 visitors to their website. The sessions is because they on average looked at 1.1 pages each. So of those 9,690 people, 9,155 jumped off the home page in less than 10 seconds. Now you'd think that's shocking. And in a sense it is, but it's also just the way it is. It's the reality. So unless you are working very hard on that home page, the great story that Rebecca's got, and it is a great story because it talks a lot about her personality here, they'll never get to see that because they won't do that deep dive. And it's such an important point. So it is just worth remembering that question that I asked. What do you need to put in front of them so they actually kind of are going to buy from you? Now, one of the other places that I love is the whole world of email marketing. Now, the email marketing that I do is only business to business, and it's only for high value consultative sales or services, which is pretty much everyone in this room, interestingly. So I'm just going to show you some examples of how we've made that work through Essential Mail, which is an email marketing business. So I'm going to show you a couple of before and afters. So this is an email, and it's got this is to a database of HR professionals, so senior HR people, learning and development, and it's for a business that provide training to senior teams in big companies. Let me tell you a story is the subject line. Now, I'm just going to, can you all see that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Just zoom through the email very quickly. Point here is there isn't a single we in here. We do this. We are a firm of. We have offices. We care for our clients. None of that. It's got a strong headline. It's personal. It's to Andrea. It was delivered at 11:02, way back on the 11th of February. And what was the reply to that? You heard of Dyson, I guess. And the reply was great. So crucially about timing, you just don't know when people want to buy. It's got a strong message. And it's you know what? That is that's a sales inquiry, from a cold sales email, because the messaging's right, because it's a little bit edgy, a little bit different. Now, I'll show you something else here. Now, I put this on because I found this when I was putting this presentation together. And this is from a business I was involved in for a bit around video testimonials. And it says, subject is turn clicks into clients. If you want more prospects to buy from you, and hey, who doesn't want that? Then let your existing customers tell the great story. And that's a really important point here. Now, what interested me here is, firstly, it's very short. It doesn't say we do this. It does actually say we specialize. That's okay. But it's far down in the email. I'm dealing with what the customer wants first. And the customer wants sales. And it almost universally, it's an interesting point that even if you're a photographer doing architectural photographer, the architect who's your client, they want sales. And they know if they've got good photography, they stand a better chance of selling to one of their clients. Now, what fascinated me about this is the reply to that email. again, appropriate timing. We are currently looking. So wow, what an amazing, for a cold email to a cold database, first email gets the potential of a sale. And you know what? Look at the date, it's 11 years old, 10 and a half years old. The world has not changed. And it never will. It never will. I'm going to show you one more of these examples here. This is probably my best ever headline. And again, it's to the training market, it's to senior people in big companies, SAB Miller, and black or white or even a woman. And this talks about bias, unconscious and conscious bias within corporates. It was important in 2015 and it's just as important today. And again, there's no we here. Walk into a room full of people and what happens? We all start making judgments and assumptions. So perhaps it's no surprise that this unconscious or conscious bias exists in most organizations and does little to engender the inclusive and nurturing framework that creates success. So what do we get from that? So again, here's the answer. Again, from SAB Miller, I've been forwarded this email. I'm working, blah, 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 and so on. So I'll be very happy to hear from you by phone. So again, a cold email to a cold database. And what happens if the messaging is right and it's a little bit edgy, a little bit pushy, they stand a chance of actually making an engagement. Now, I'm just going to move on now, and I'm just going to remind you about this. And think about your social media, which is where a lot of you are putting stuff out. And there are some experts here, there are people with their own opinions. And the crucial thing for me here is this works very well as a format. It's a fleeting medium, it's got to work fast. Now, think about a post that you're going to do this afternoon or an article on LinkedIn or any of the social channels. It feels like there's almost a necessity to have a photograph at any cost. And so where do we go? We go to the free resources, we find a photograph, and photograph is supposed to sort of link the whole thing together. Now, this is a photograph of a girl and a boy. He hasn't got glasses on. She's got glasses on. So it was obviously taken for this purpose. This is not a bit of stock imagery. When you're next doing a post, think about the fact that the photograph is going to be very visible. And look at that big headline, 2 for 1 from £69. That proposition is massively strong. So where does it go wrong? It goes wrong here, where somebody has thought, oh, we need a picture. So this little piggy bank with a yellow background, that would be the right kind of picture, but it isn't the right kind of picture. And crucially, why not put the words of the job ad in there, just like in here, so that people can see it fast? And classically, it was only 5 hours old, fair enough, but this person has about 4,500 followers. Be the first to comment. If you're putting posts up like this and everyone it's got one little thumbs up, it's pointless. There's no engagement. And I've shown you how the engagement can work really well. Now, 3 examples where I think it does work well is that somebody that I work with now, she's a mum and she's a coach for return to work mums. She's also not half bad photographer with her phone. And these are the things that she does. And any mum here will look at that. Well, anybody will look at that and think that is a really powerful image. And it's got a headline. It's got a powerful headline. Because so often in the social media space, the headline gets lost down underneath the photograph, whereas it needs to be in the photograph and it needs to be powerful and relevant. Now, some of you will see some of the stuff that I do. This is one of my posts that I did, or an article on LinkedIn. It's got a good headline on it and it attracts attention. Now, I'm going to do a blog around Simon Sinek's why, and that's going to get a lot of people heated about, how dare you diss Simon Sinek? I'm not dissing him at all, but I'm going to use it because it's powerful and it's a bit disruptive, it's a bit edgy, but it's hugely respectful of this guy too, because he's pretty much a superstar. I'm just going to show this one to you as well. If you can't find an image, and you know what, we can't find images very often, especially that are relevant. I'm going to go back to the training company. The training company use all sorts of tools, but we're not selling the tools, we're selling the outcome. So what they've done is they've got a graphic which has got their colors in it, and it works in lots of different ways. So in corporate, long-lasting behavioral change is what people offer. And over the last year with lockdown, people say we do our as in you can't have long-lasting behavioral change delivered in a PowerPoint in an hour. just doesn't work. So what they've done, and I think it's just worth these, just read this out. With COVID-19 tsunami upon us, we're asking ourselves if perhaps we can deliver our renowned L&D, learning and development experience online. And then the copy says, we can't. It accepts, and it's a really good and edgy piece. So I've come to the end now. So all of these are examples of where good messaging, I'm going to come back. So I'm done with this now. I'm just going to mention these things. Good messaging is difficult to do. And it's not like, there's loads of stuff I cannot do and I get somebody else to do it for me. And if you're struggling for words and you're struggling for those concepts, there are people that can help you. Don't try to do it yourself if you can't. And don't be totally cheap and just steal images from somewhere, because social media, which a lot of us are doing, is a cost, because when you're doing that, you're not doing other things like getting on the phone and prospecting and all those other things. So I'm just really just want you to think about, I'm talking to my audience. What do I need to say to them so they go, yeah, I want that. Thank you very much. I hope that was of interest to you.
Thank you, Nick. That was excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Lots of ideas there. I've made a few notes and then I want to open it up to everybody else. One of the things that struck from the advert on Specsavers and the advert for the image for the voiceover is you use something that was quite edgy. Into the words, or the words that attracted attention were very clear, but also they knew what they wanted to do next. And a lot of people, I think, maybe we think about the audience, we think everybody's in the audience, and we want to communicate, but we're not. And we pride ourselves in being nice people and engaging in a conversation at a networking event or online or whatever, but we're just not clear as to what we want them to do next. And I thought the ad for the voiceover was excellent. You talked about how compelling a voice was, but don't just hear it. Just don't take it from me. Listen to this. And there were 3 options. Yeah. Now, I would want to listen to her voice. I'd want to use those actions, which is exactly what you wanted, that person wanted to do. And I see so many people on social media putting things up, but there's no request to do anything extra.
Well, I've got a point here with that. You shouldn't need to make a request. You really shouldn't need to make a request. It needs to be bleeding obvious what you're supposed to do next. I think if you try to get people, sometimes I'll look at some content and it's like the idea that somebody's going to navigate their way through your website, it's just not going to happen. And
no, I wasn't suggesting that at all, that you navigate through a website.
Yeah.
But we're not all as skilled with you from an advertising background in it, being able to do that. And the point I'm making is that a lot of us are not sure what we want to do next. We go to network meetings and we think we've got to sell our stuff there and then. And that's not what we should be doing.
No, we should be sharing our knowledge, Paul.
We should be sharing ourselves. We should remember who we are. And it's not what we do. There's a difference between what we do and who we really are. And a lot of people have not got that as a clear message. But the next step for anybody you meet on networking, is to take them out of that environment and have something more meaningful in the way of a discussion.
Well, I'm gonna put it out there that there's somebody I chatted to last week, and in the world of recruitment, which is a mucky old place in my opinion, there's one person who's absolutely knocked my socks off in terms of her approach and what she does. And the trouble is, and it is a huge trouble, that in the 40 odd 50 seconds that we've got to say this is what we do, starting that conversation with I'm in recruitment, it's like, oh Jesus, not another one. Yeah, what Sarah does and her approach and her cynical view now of where she is, once you get to chat to her, what a great proposition. I mean, she's become my favorite person in recruitment, but she had the opportunity, or we had the opportunity for the conversation. And so often, and this is the point here, if you looked at that Google Analytics stat, 9,500 people and 9,155 didn't have the opportunity to engage. And those are massive figures, and that is the reality. So it is such a tiny little delicate, any new prospect, any opportunity. And I almost kind of want to encourage somebody like Sarah to tell a different story that comes with the success of this amazing person that's working in whatever company. And then it comes back to, oh, by the way, I placed and now I'm in recruitment. Because then the lasting impression I have is not the starting point, I'm in recruitment. I know you didn't say that, Sarah, but it's, you know, I mean, like, I was so impressed with what you do. So
I think where's the audience and how am I going to grab their attention? Is it a provocative headline? Is it a provocative image? Is it both? Is it video? That's what we need to be thinking about. We've got to think about what we're doing right now. Am I attracting the right audience? Am I grabbing their attention? But again, I would take issue. You've then got to more or less tell them what to do next. And that's why a lot of YouTubers, and I watch a lot of YouTube channels, they'll say, if you like what you're viewing, if it's pertinent, click the like button and the subscribe so you get further notifications. They always say that. I think they say it too soon. I think they should be saying it at the end, not the beginning. But what do I know? But Mark had a point, and then Kelly, and then Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And it's have to be brief because I need to hang up soon for another meeting at 9. But good points, Nick, and particularly the importance of imagery there. Where people have a physical product like a shower room or a kitchen, it's very evident of what the end result is. Where you are providing a service, whether you're an accountant or a consultant or a trainer, how do you represent that physicalness of what you do that isn't moving into the pictures of success and champions and all that sort of stuff that's a bit bland? But it also isn't saying I develop websites, or I'm a LinkedIn trainer, or I'm a graphic designer. That's very, it's the plumber rather than the shower room, rather than the lifestyle change.
I understand that, and I think in these meetings, the majority of people here do actually provide a service, and they don't have a tangible. I can show you a picture of it. And in the presentation, I refer to the training company. The training company they do stuff in the outdoors, and they used to show the kind of stuff that, like building a shelter with the senior team at EDF Energy or whatever. They used to show those things, but what that does is it distracts, because that's the blowtorch. But now what they do, they have these branded, they're done in Photoshop by the website designer. They're these branded slugs, if you like, that have an edgy bit of content in them. So they are branding well, as in every time you see one of those, you go, oh yeah, it's that company again, because they're familiar. And the words are strong. It is the perennial situation where, if you think about how a poster works, it's got good words on it as well, and it is those words. And if you are the accountant, or you are whatever the business is, or you are the PPC people, you need to be in front of the right audience, obviously. If you like, what do I want from my accountant? I want him to help me save the VAT on this office, help me mitigate my corporation tax. I want all of that stuff. Or, right, this morning, what are the new rules on furlough? So an article on furlough would help, because it's part of my life and it's part of a number of other. So it is about practical advice, and it's crucially about not being woolly. It's about really hard-nosed things. And back to the recruitment person or the PPC people, if you're talking, the message with PPC is how not to hemorrhage money with PPC, because I would suggest that anybody that's ever done any PPC themselves, paid search on Google, has had a bad experience before they go and speak to Kelly and Ewan. And it's about those messages relating directly to the pain that people in those professional places have had. And don't try and use a photograph.
If you can't show something physical, show something in the mind so that they can picture it. And to do that, focus on a story. So the story of how you've helped particular person, etc.
I think LinkedIn is because I guess I'm sort of new to using it properly. I think it's incredible that everyone is just sitting there waiting to be talked to, really. I mean, it's an amazing network. If there are lots of people, architects and people in construction, that are like quite happy to engage. They want their post to be talked about. So if you're helping them do that, then you're already giving them help, if you like. Real.
So have you found some meaningful connections through LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, one that I've got a job through now. Yeah, and that was about timing. That was definitely about timing, but it was a post that I had liked, made a comment, and then he commented back, and he mentioned something else that they were working on, and I looked that up and then got in touch with him outside of LinkedIn to discuss that, and then we talked, and a job has come out of it.
Good.
And the other ones, I don't know how meaningful they'll be, but they know me now, so at least 5 more architects know who I am.
Nick, so
I just want to make a point, really. In the presentation, I showed some of those sort of social media pictures. And do you remember the one of the mum with the comment, perfect mothers and why they don't exist? This lady here, I was talking to her, so I'm helping her with her marketing. And it struck me that selling in the room, like we're doing this morning, wasn't getting her a lot of business. But she wants to engage with HR professionals. So it's very easy to target people with HR job titles. So every month she is in front of 2,000 HR professionals through emails that she sends out herself. And she is now having more conversations than she's ever had, even in the kind of lockdown space, because she's in front of a lot of people. And I think the one thing that is crucial here, you've got to be in front of a lot of people. And social media, you need another channel that delivers you in front of a lot of people. So whether it's through paid search or whether it's through, but you got to pay for it. And I think this is one of the things that I say to every client I've ever worked with, you have to pay for your reach. And if you just try and grow it organically in the noisy world in which we are now, it's going to be very, very difficult. And, you know, for Beck here, or for anybody, who you've got to be in front of a lot of people. And when I say a lot, I mean thousands of people. And then you start to grow those relationships and you will have more inquiries than you've ever had if you're prepared to pay for your reach.
You're always paying for your reach, Nick. You're always paying. You're either paying in money to get in there sooner rather than later. But if you're doing later, not paying anything, it's costing you. So therefore, you're
yes, you're right. You're right. You're right indeed. Yeah.
You know, and I think it all comes back down to what is the real value of a customer? You know, what is the value of that customer for the first purchase?
Can I just big up? Can I just big up Kelly and Ewan here? That grab came from a company selling online. So they were selling online. So they had a funnel set up on their Google Analytics. And the point with that is that with good keywords, particularly selling orthopedic chair or something like that, what is really interesting then is very quickly you'll work out, right, I've spent 100 quid attracting people to my website under the keyword of orthopedic chair. If you then look at their time on site or their conversions and it isn't working, you know very, very quickly, I've got to make the orthopedic chair page much, much better. And it actually tells you the truth. So you spend 100 quid and you know the truth, and you now know I need a much better landing page. And that's, you know, PPC is a great way to lose a load of money, but it's also a great way to make a load of money.
There's no point in my, I've been involved in paid search since it was invented. I've been involved in companies that used to spend £250,000 a month on it alone, you know, massive amounts. But there's one core thing that always comes through. There is no point, and to use it, there's no point in going out and buying the ingredients to make a fantastic cake if you come back and you haven't got a cooker to put them on. So in marketing terms, to your point, before you spend any money, you've got to have the tools to allow you to process those people through how you want to process them through. So whatever journey you want to take them through. So we're running one at the moment. So we take them to a place. There's a great video done by Paul, which qualifies and self-qualifies people out. So spend the time putting the infrastructure in place where people go to before spending the money, because otherwise, as Nick said, the money will just go down the drain. Or even worse, it may not go down the drain, but you won't know what's happening with it. You need to know to the pound, penny, half penny, exactly what that money's doing. And the only way to do that is to have that infrastructure in place first.